Greatness. 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 Bow, bow, bow. Greatness.
Let's going on? Welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Sanchez. Joined with me is my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
I'm feeling amazing. Like back in the day at NDSU, we had a saying, those who stay will play. Those who play will be champions. Once a champion, always a champion. You already know. There she be right there, baby. Check it out.
And there's the ring kiss. Hey, on this podcast, we teach you how to renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. And never forget it. There's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't.
Amen.
If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you get notified on any time we drop new content on the channel. If you're listening to this wherever you consume the audio version of this podcast, please leave us a review so we can climb those charts and hopefully get our message out to more people. Now, for today, we are talking about parenting. And the topic today is hard questions with real answers.
Yes, sir.
We're going to jump right into it, trying to cut down on our time a little bit here. And so the gist of this is kids ask really difficult questions. So the kids are going to ask parents hard questions. We've all been there if you have kids. And we want to give them real answers. And so what does that look like? We're going to hit on about 5 questions today that we feel like are very difficult that we get asked, and then we're going to talk about how we would answer them and kind of our advice on those along those lines.
Yeah, and 2 quick things. One, I'm going to give you a real quick answer, that's going to be freeing to you, hopefully. Number 2, as we spawn off from this a little bit for questions, just go ahead and just throw a question in there, and we'll answer your question as best we can, as quickly as we can. If I can't answer it, I'll let you know, and we'll keep moving. So jump in. Let's get some participation. So the first thing, real answers, right? So here's what I want to tell you is kids will start lying by themselves as toddlers. They have this thing called object permanence, which is if you have a sucker and you put it under a blanket, around 18 months, they move the blanket and they know it's still there. Prior to that, they'll literally, you put it behind your back and it disappeared, like it never existed. So when object permanence hits, kids will start to experiment with lying. So lying is a developmental process. Now, which kids continue to lie? There's a lot of research about it, and it depends. But here's what we know. If you tell the quote unquote white lies or little friendly lies or whatever people like to call those things, when your kid looks at you, those kids lie more often. Now, if you pair a really good liar parent, a parent who lies, with being super strict, those kids kind of become experts. And here's why. Imagine this and think about how often you get caught as a parent. So, you're on speakerphone to somebody, and, say Tyler calls me and he's like, "Hey, how'd you like our food?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, that was dope. That was sick. It was cool. Like I could have had seconds, but I had some gut issues." And then I hang up the phone, and then you turn around and your daughter's looking at you like, because she remembers the conversation in the car, like, "Man, that was kind of gross. Why would Ty serve that?"
Right.
So what are you going to do? You turn around, you're caught by a kid lying. So what do most people do? Okay. Parents who lie, like commonplace, they say, "Hey, this is between us. You never say anything." Right. And so, hey, what stays in the family is so what happens is kids learn to lie. Now that's different from if I'm having an adult conversation and Lindsay comes in, I'm like, "Hey, you can't know that." There's some things that you can kind of just shy away from because you don't want to really say. But for our intent and purposes tonight, when a kid comes to you with an answer, please don't lie.
You mean a question?
I'm sorry. I'm giving this answer. Yeah. When kids come to you with a question, please don't lie. And here's why. If they come to you and they know you lie and they see it, then I feel Ty's not honest to me as my dad. Then what happens is, as I come to him with hard questions and I feel like he's not honest, I'm not going to come to him with more difficult questions.
Yeah, I'm going to stop coming to you.
Stop coming. And, I just had a birthday and, all my kids give me cards, whatever. But one of the things Tavian said was, one of the biggest things I cherish, something like that, some language he said, is that I can come to you with any question. And that's hard. That's hard to develop. I don't know how many of you young adults can come to your parents with any question, any topic. And that's the kind of concept that goes back to what we talked about, being approachable. Okay. So that's the real answer. Your real answer is tell the honest truth. Now, if it's too much truth, the whole like birds and the bees question, stuff like that, then just take the tip of the iceberg until they're like, oh, okay. And then later they'll come to you with the second piece, third piece, and then just keep
And I think it's
opening up
okay
the
to say
layers.
like, hey, it's not appropriate for me to tell you that right now, or I can
Yes.
tell you those things when you get older. There's a lot of stuff. Stella asks that outside asks.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not something we need to worry about in first grade. Right.
Right.
Mom wants to know this. So, what would you actually say in that good food situation? If the food was good, what would you say?
In the good food situation. Okay. So if I got caught with a lie.
Yeah, that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Valencia says, no, Dad, you said in the car it was terrible. Why'd you lie?
Yeah. Then I would say, I didn't want to hurt Tyler's feelings. And then she would say, but it's still a lie. And I would say, but I didn't want to hurt Tyler's feelings. Like if I was a liar and I was trying to hide it.
No. What would you personally say?
Well, I would personally say, you're right. I should have been honest with Tyler. I was trying to protect his feelings.
Do you call him back and tell him?
If it's somebody I really care about, I would. If it's somebody like, I ain't trying to hurt that dude. I mean, I saw that dude once. I mean, like, I don't know. And then I just feel like it's kind of hard to hurt somebody like I just met, Valencia. So, I mean, but you're right. I shouldn't have lied. Like, like that. So it doesn't matter so much so that I have to go make that right. But it matters that my daughter saw me open up and become honest in that scenario. And that's what I want you to think about. So your first real answer is, with all intents and purposes, don't lie. There's so many parents who just say, oh man, I just tell white lies, stuff like that. It's still a lie. Okay. All right. So let's go through the list and feel free to answer ask some more questions.
We got 5 questions that are pretty well known to be difficult questions that parents go through and struggle with. So we're just going to tick through some of these, spend some longer time on some than others. But question number 1 is, will I die someday? Or will mommy and daddy die someday? Or will you die someday? Basically the question of, we're not here on this earth forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one of the first things I want you to think about is, if you can try to take an angle on what's the emotion that the kid is asking the question for. Typically, and I say this all the time, your questions have a purpose to it. We laugh and we're like, well, go ahead and ask the dumb question. But the dumb question is getting to some answer, some lower level functioning piece that says, I kind of want to know that. So you just say it the way it comes out. So in this case, this is an attachment issue, and attachment is always about security. So the first thing I would have you do is, depending on the kid's age, but even like preteen, 12, even 13, 14, the very first thing is you just go hug them. But normally a kid that old is going to know, like at some point you're going to die. Their question would be like, how do you know you're going to die? Or when will I know if you start dying? But a younger kid says, do parents die? Hey mom, will you die? So it's a security question. So you're going to lean in, grab them, hug them, and be like, I love you. I'm going to be here for you. But yes, sometimes people die. You're going to get follow-up questions. Again, answer honestly. And if it's a hard question, like, when are you going to die before daddy and stuff like that? Let's say one of you has a health issue, and so most likely someone's going to die before the other. You don't have to get into the whole data. You'll just say, well, sometimes some people do die before others, and they'll just keep bouncing through questions. And as quickly as they jumped in, they'll exit out, and that's normally okay. Your thing is stay calm, trying to tackle the behind the scenes emotion of security, and then give back a hug and kiss them and say, hey, that's a great question. Thanks for trusting me. And then they'll skip off and they'll be fine.
Yeah. And then I always try to circle back around to, God is in control. And even when difficult things do happen, he'll see us through that. You know, like to end with some security that, okay, if the worst case scenario does happen, God's got this. Like, let's not worry about this right now. And then immediately try to go do something fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we backed up a few years, my mother-in-law, Fran, died 2010. It devastated everybody, our whole family. And, Valencia right away didn't say too much about Stacy, but as she got older and, she started trying to sleep in her own room, she started asking questions a little bit. And she would struggle with the idea like, well, what if I die, herself, and how fast is it going to happen and stuff. So again, same concept. And then you go back to this, which is, remember when mama died? And that's kind of where the spark was. And you're like, we all still love each other. We all still come together. We all still work as a family. God can still heal, God still changes things. Then for us as a family at the end, once all those kind of avenues are open, and it starts to slow down, then we circle back to the what moment. What's awesome about that? Like, hey, remember though, when mama died, there was a lot of good things that happened, and we talk about the good that came from it. which is hard to remember in the moment. And so you feel the feelings, and then you finish with the what moment.
Okay. Next question. This is kind of like you gotta adapt it to your family, but if you guys are still married, maybe you guys are fighting and kind of discussing, arguing. Kid may ask, what happened if you and daddy fell out of love? Or you could go the next step, would you and daddy ever get a divorce, or you and mommy? And then a side note to that is, if are already divorced from your kid's biological spouse or parent, why did you fall out of love from dad or from mom? And then when you start dating again, will that happen again? Or, is this stepdad or father figure or stepmom, is that going to happen again? That basically worry of breaking up or losing the family unit, whatever that looks like. So if it's, a married couple questioning that family unit being broke apart for the first time or for the second time.
Yeah, correct. And this stems back to connectivity. Who am I connected to? And again, it's an attachment question. And so just a funny thing is, you could draw a picture. You could ask your child to draw a picture, and you just say, hey, do me a favor, honey. Like Stella's 7, she could do it. Eliza's 4, she could do it. And say, hey, honey, draw me a picture of our family. And they're going to say, what do you mean? Draw me a picture of our family. And they're like, how? You can use pens, crayons, pencils. Just draw me a picture of our family. And then she'll say, oh, okay. And then they'll draw it. And you'll see, like, the tighter that the family is, like, all the people will be kind of connected. They'll stand next to each other, almost like no breathing room, or they'll stand together and it almost looks like they're all holding hands. That's a pretty connected family. And then other kids will draw like themselves first. Maybe their dad's in the middle, maybe the mom off to the right by like 3 or 4 inches. And then, like, a sibling who visits, every other weekend, they'll draw them up in the right corner. And so they're trying to integrate who comes, who goes, who's on my side. And if we don't handle those things correctly as they grow up, this does develop the whole us versus them scenario. Okay. So the first thing is like, hey, will you and daddy ever fall out of love? And the answer is, I don't think so. I love mommy. Mommy loves me. And she does weird stuff. Like, she slaps my butt sometimes, and it's just gonna grow. And then like, ew, gross, they'll kind of laugh about it. Or you could say, no, I don't think so. Cause you see daddy kiss mommy, right? And then they laugh and joke. Okay. So that's the easy one to kind of scenario that way. If you're having struggles and you fight, like, hey, are you ever going to fall out of love with mommy? No, I don't think so. And then, why do you fight? How come you sleep on the couch sometimes? How come sometimes you're in the basement? And kids are smart. They're trying to connect. So don't lie. You'll say, you know what? You're right. Me and mommy fight sometimes. And sometimes I'm dummy and I yell at mommy and I shouldn't do it. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Everybody knows as adults, it takes 2 to tango. There's no such thing as a one-sided divorce. It's always 2 to tango. Now it might be 51, 49, give or take, stuff like that. But it takes 2, period. But here's the issue for you. You take the authority. If they ask you and you're the wife, you take some authority and say, hey, I owned it up. Yeah, you're right. I question dad a lot. I look at his phone without him asking. Next time I need to ask him, right? Like, I can do better. So when you take ownership as the wife or as the husband, what happens is the kid learns the lesson. Never forget, your kids are learning through mirror neurons. They mirror you. They copy you. They're little copycats. So take the ownership, and then don't overpromise. Like, we will never, ever, ever, ever do that. That's kind of a hard line to take, but the idea is, no, we won't plan on it. I won't leave your mommy. Again, the security issue. Now, third part, we're already divorced and kids are coming back and forth, maybe at a visitation, like, hey, dad, why did you and mom stop loving each other? Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is where parent alienation syndrome starts to develop. And the issues with parent alienation syndrome is it always backfires over time, not necessarily instantly. And so parent alienation is like, let me tell you what your mom did. Your mom's a blankety, 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 blank, and I'll never talk to her. And that's why. So initially it seems like, oh, okay, then you protect me from her, dad. Yeah, I got you. But then over time, what happens is they start to realize that those are lies, and they'll come back and forth. And most kids will stay in the middle. If most kids don't stay in the middle, then that means there's something going on with the parent that they don't visit, or the parent that they struggle with, because there's just a clash of titans there. Like, if one of my
personally seeing something,
they're personally seeing something, and it just depends on all kinds of stuff, like diet, religion, nutrition, like how you live, like, whatever. And those are just small little pieces that, we'd have to iron out. And people have this all the time. Like parents will tell me, well, I can't get my kid to visit, and they won't open up about it. And I'll say, well, how often do they ask you questions, and how often are you honest? Always. I'll say, okay, give me an example. And they say, well, for example, I'll just throw this out there because it's me. They don't like how much I spend hunting. They say when they come visit me, that, hey, you're always gone anyways. Why should I visit? And then I say, I'm freaking grown. I ain't changing. And then I always go, oh, well, there's your answer. And here's the concept. Like, I'm not saying you have to give up hunting, but I am saying you have to give up hunting on their weekends.
Yep.
And so those are some issues that you just have to really kind of walk through and pay attention. Like you can take those hard, fast lines, like I'm the grown up kind of thing.
Yep.
But then you can't complain to me that, hey, your kids aren't adapting, perhaps because you're not adapting. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Next one. Who is God, and is God real?
Yeah. So my first question would be like, are you talking about tennis? Are you talking about bow hunting? Are you talking about golf? I mean, like, cause just kidding.
God, you mean goat?
Cause like some people use that word. They'll say,
Yeah,
bro,
yeah.
I'm the tennis
I'm
god,
the god
or
of tennis. Yeah.
I'm the Halo god. Like it was a joke. Like I don't,
Mhm.
I don't like those terms anyways, but it's some kids will say that. And I just go, bro,
Yeah.
seriously.
We walked through this middle school. I mean, all ages, I think we contemplate this one.
Yeah, this is a hard one. And okay, so in your case, Ty, they ask you got to ask yourself a question like, at a Christian school, you can go deeper, but really that's a parental foundational thing. Like, how do they describe it? And so some parents will say, and this is where it's going to fall back on you a little bit, but again, be honest and say, well, I believe God is somebody who loves everybody, and God is a deity that created all creation. And you can go with the Bible. If that's not who you are, then you have to tell them your line, and your line is because they'll watch you. So if you say, hey, I serve the Lord is real. It's just real to me is like this light,
Yeah.
And they say, well, how come you don't go to church? How come you don't read your Bible? Like, so again, you got to have some honesty issues on the question and where it's coming from. So typically, hey, where's God in my life? This is crazy research, but on the neuroscience of toddlers start to question a deity, God. Where'd we come from? How did I get here? Mommy's tummy. How did I get in mommy's tummy? Who made me? Who did it? And so those questions of like, where's my leader? I know it's crazy to think about, but it's programmed in them. And
well, Liza's asking those questions. She's 4.
Yes, it's programmed in them. And wherever you're at, whoever you are, like as bright as you are, like it's super hard to contend with intelligent design because there's so many physiological pieces of data that science can't answer. And that means that we are physiologically designed, and there's an intelligent design. And so, okay, do you go that deep with a toddler? No, but you do say stuff like God is the person or the deity who created us, and how, where, and all those questions. And so you can play it a little bit. You can kind of just look, where's God? Where's he live? All those kind of questions. And the answer is keep just leading into the questions and lean into those conversations. And the answer is God is everywhere. Like he's omnipresent. Okay. So you can go as wide as you want to and as deep as your child can handle. But again, truth wins.
Yeah. I think in our circles, we probably don't get asked the question, who is God? We probably get asked the question more, at least in my just Christian circles, their kids ask the question more of, is God real? And how do we know he's real? Who created God? Not necessarily a question of who is God, but it's like, I'm doubting his true existence. And I say this in my Bible classes, like doubting that leads to answers is good. So many people in the church think that doubting and questioning God is questioning faith, but faith is believing in something you can't see. So there has to be a level of doubt that you have to work through to get to a place that where you can now trust in that. And so to doubt, if you have answers, is good, right? So we understand that in the practical sense. Like if I have a question that, I'm doubting if someone said something or if someone did something, that's bad if I never find out and I just hold that against you. Someone told me Raul is the rudest person in the world. If I just trust that and never doubt that leads to answers, I'm going through life on a false accusation. But if I have that accusation and now I go confirm it one way or the other, now doubting's not an issue because I came to a conclusion. So, and I always say, if you doubt God is real and you go searching for answers, you're going to find out that God is real. So why is that? Why do we get mad at kids and even adults that want to question who created God and where is God at some point we do have to get understand that our brain can only comprehend so much.
Yeah.
We can't comprehend who created God. That's impossible for our brain to think that he just always was or always existed. But I do think we can see tangible signs that he is real.
Yes, correct.
So, all right.
And teaching them to doubt their doubts. Like a doubt is just a thought. So doubt your doubt and then press into it. Like, hey, I don't know if this is real. But what if it is? Then press in. And then you'll get your answers. Like some of the strongest Christians had the most crazy doubt and they had to prove God wrong and then couldn't. Some of the greatest apologetics people were bioethicists. They were
C.S. Lewis started out as an atheist.
Yeah, and so they're bioevolutionary scientists who set out to prove God through ecological digs and finds, and they end up turning. So, I mean, I want you, again, you don't have to go that deep, but the concept is, again, don't lie, speak truth, and press in, and then only show the tip of the iceberg. And if they like it and they're okay with it, that's okay, because you don't want to overwhelm them, and you don't want them to ever feel stupid for asking the questions. Now, stop and think about this. Why is this so important that we're having this conversation? Because most parents shy away from most of these questions so far. And then you have a 13-year-old, 15-year-old, 17-year-old who's not used to coming and getting an answer. They come and get in an argument, so they just stop coming. And the most important thing is every kid's going to have struggles. Every kid's going to have struggles. And the kids who fight out of it faster have an adult they can trust, and they press into the hard questions and they get real answers.
Well, and I just said this the other day to someone that we were talking about church, talking about really difficult issues. And the problem is that the church shies away from talking about some of these difficult issues because it's awkward or uncomfortable. And I think parents fall into that same thing, that it's awkward or it's uncomfortable, or, we don't have all the answers. So we're worried that the question is going to come up that I'm not going to be able to answer. And I don't want to look stupid, or I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
But the problem is, okay, so if we don't talk about it, it's not like the kid stops worrying about it. They go get answers from TikTok or YouTube or Instagram. So it would be better for us to stumble through it in that awkwardness and say, hey, I don't know, but let's find this out together, than saying, let's not talk about it at all, because they're going to find answers somewhere. And let it be from us in the church rather than the world and social media.
Yeah.
So
got it.
All right, next one. What do cuss words mean, and why can't I say them? And why can't I yell out a bad word when I stub my toe, or what kind of that question of language? I think you probably could also go, well, why can you say it if you do cuss, but I can't for the kids? Where's the fine line from that? I mean, I don't cuss, but I know that there's some parents that, from time to time, with no judgment, maybe stubs a toe and drops a wild, crazy word. And then the kid hears that, how do you explain cuss words, bad words? Who can say it? Who can't?
Yeah. So when there's an arbitrary line, like there's no law on cuss words, right? But what parents typically do who curse in the home, they'll say, hey, I'm an adult, I can do this. And then kids kind of respect it up front, but they hear it so much that they just deploy it. And then the problem is, especially a young kid, let's say a toddler, like when I test kids, I don't test young kids anymore, but if kids is like building a block puzzle, or they get the clock and they're like a 3 or 4 year old and they get real frustrated, and the blocks will tip over and it'll just drop 3 cuss words, in a row, like that's in context, like they hear it all the time. Otherwise, you'll see a kid who's getting tested and they're just kind of messing around, and they just grab a pen and all of a sudden they just drop 3 cuss words. Like they just heard the word. They don't know what it means. They're not in context. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. But again, this is the issue of a double standard. This is the issue of being congruent. So if I allow myself to cuss in the house and then I just make an arbitrary line, like, hey, I'm an adult, you're not. If kids don't think that's legal, if kids don't think that's like, that doesn't even make sense, then that's just stupid. You just made up the rule, so I'm going to do it. And so you have to be very careful. Whatever you deploy in your house, the kids will mimic, right? And then they go outside the house and say, oh, what at my house, I can't cuss unless I'm 18. And they're like, wow, you're not going to get arrested. Some kid's going to say that. Well, have you ever asked your dad if that's illegal? No one's going to arrest you. And then they start cursing. Okay. Now, why do kids use cuss words? And the answer is pretty simple. From a young age, when they drop a cuss word or they drop an F-bomb, everybody looks and laughs, because when they're really young, let's say a toddler of 3, 4, the parents will just die laughing. And whoever's in the house, all the adults will die laughing and they go, that's funny. And they even like film it and put it on TikTok or something. And then what happens is the kid understands two things. One, I get attention. And two, when I yell it, a lot of people walk away from me. And so it deploys power, right? It's a prestige. And so people use it because they think they can level up. But, cussing isn't a sign of intelligence. Cussing literally is just a sign of frustration. Now, there is some evidence to say that people who are intelligent on paper and use a lot of cynicism, and they use a lot of sarcasm, they use it that way. But then again, they become habits. So like, here's a crazy nugget for you. Listen, passively, you can develop habits. Over time, repeated trials become habits. So like if I have a Perrier water every night with dinner over, 62 days, I'm going to have a habit. And the day I don't have it, I might get frustrated, or I'm not going to have withdrawals, obviously, but I might get frustrated. Like, who drank my last one? And I'll be mad about it. So you can develop a habit passively. Okay. Happiness, though, and joy take effort. And so if you're running around cursing and your kids are cursing and you're mad at them for cursing, the system's just broken. Either everybody can do it, or you don't get to do it, or you only do it in certain situations. Like I've a family will say this, like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, you're allowed to curse if you hurt yourself. Okay, define hurt yourself. Drop something on your toe, smash your finger. I'm like, run with it, see what happens. And then it just develops a system in the house, right? So what happens to a kid is I get to use the same system my dad does. So now again, we're in that community and we're in that connectivity, we're attached. And that's the thing you have to really make sure, if you're going to say, I can, you can't, that double standard creates a river between you and the kids. So you have to really make sure that that's a line you're going to take.
Yep. I like it. Last one. And then this falls into a comment mom made. So the question is basically, did you ever do drugs? Did you ever drink? Did you ever get in trouble? Did you have a checkered past? Did you smoke weed? Did you kind of those questions, kind of we're lumping them all together. Basically, did you break the law? And in our circles, how far did you cross the line of falling away from Jesus, etc.?
Oh my, look at that. We're out of time. It's 9:30.
And here's mom's comment. She says, hypothetically speaking, how do you handle it when your child gets caught sneaking out and they know you did that when you were a kid? How do you handle it when they throw that in your face?
Ooh, I'll just say, hypothetically speaking, I say this, like, bruh, that record is sealed, bro.
In this same scenario, hypothetically speaking, I would say I didn't get caught. So
okay, I know okay. So
I didn't get caught.
This is our family. So
this
like,
must be Terrence or Tave because your boy didn't get caught.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, if this was true.
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. Like so we have fun with this stuff because I have a checkered past. Like I'm not, some church boy kind of guy kind of thing, right? So
clearly, because I'm here.
Here's the idea. I will just say, what were you thinking? Did you think you can get away with it? What were you thinking? Did you think you can have fun? Like, what was your goal? And again, the most important thing I think we can help kids is understand the function of their decision. So, okay, I know it's going to be funny for y'all, but like if you fart for a purpose, like what was the purpose? I relieved gas. You burp for a purpose, right? You blink for a purpose. Like you run to the kitchen, open the fridge for a purpose. Like, what are you attempting to do? What was your intention? And if you start there and try to understand what your child's doing, you can really put the pieces together. Like I was trying to fit in. Okay, so you're trying to be popular. What other ways can you try to be popular? Okay, those kinds of things. Now, once you have those discussions, yes, you can still discipline them, especially if that rule was black and white. Like, our kids have always had a curfew, and you miss the curfew, then you owe us back time the next night. So we take time off your curfew the next night. Like it's accosted back to you. Like basically we swipe your debit card for your behavior. So behaviorally, you have to pay for that. And so, and sometimes I did it wrong. Like sometimes we fight first and I ground first, and then afterwards we settle down. And then I'm like, okay, what was your intent? What was your intention? And so the concept is, again, here, be 100% honest, because my brother will tell Tyler something I did. So I lied to Tyler, but he finds out the truth anyways. So don't do that, because all it does is creates those rivers that separates everybody. But instead, try to give the truth in love. Like, hey, here's what I was trying to do at that age. And I get you. I was trying to be popular. I was trying to fit in, whatever it is. And then be open about the idea. But for you, I've led a different life with you. We're different now. You don't have to do that. There's more ways. And you kind of just go at that from the situation of, I'm not mad at you, but are you happy with your consequences? Okay. Is the consequence worth the behavior? What do you mean? So you're grounded for 2 weeks and you got caught drinking. Was that worth it for you? And I'm like, I'm not going to be mad. I want to know. And hypothetically speaking, one of our kids who would get busted, sometimes would ask that question. He go, I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, it was worth it. Okay. Have fun for 2 weeks.
That must not have been me because I didn't get busted. that was Tave. Tave got caught. No, I would say the same thing too. The other thing is, I would go along the lines of like, hey, the reason I want to protect you from these things is because I did those things. And so learn from my mistakes. Don't try to go out and do them the same. Like I walked that path. I stumbled and I tripped and I did the things that I did, whatever you want to tell them. And I know how detrimental they are. I know the damage they caused or the hurt they caused, the frustration they caused. And I want you to avoid that at all cost. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's substance abuse, stuff like that, you don't have to know science and stuff like that. You'd be like, hey, did you know alcohol is not a health food? Did you know it's a neurotoxin? It's like sipping poison. And, just kind of go down that road a little bit, but also be honest with them. Tyler and I've had these discussions, like why do pastors, for example, or why do teachers say, hey, don't smoke because if you use a drug, you'll get addicted on your first time? That's a lie. Or, hey, don't smoke pot because you could die. That's a lie. So we don't say that. We'll say, hey, just like the Bible says, that's probably going to be fun for a moment. But then the next day, what are the consequences that are coming? And is that your intention? Is your intention to have a little bit of fun, to suffer a lot of penalty? That's up to you. Is that what you want? What are you thinking? And just be open and press into it. But the idea of, hey, this is what I did. I didn't think I had other choices. Yeah. You have other choices. I don't want you to go down that road.
Yeah.
And then I usually tell stories about like people I ran with who didn't have such a good outcome, even though we did the same stupid things.
One of the things that I know you guys kind of change your stances on talking about some of those things, but but when I was growing up, me and mom and you used to get in a bunch of fights because, mom used to, hopefully there's no young kids watching, but if she used to, like in school and my pastors and mom and just a lot of people in those Christian circles would say, well, if you have sex, the big thing when I was growing up in high school was you're going to get an STD. That was a huge thing going around, or you're going to get pregnant. So my argument was, well, there's ways to get around that, right? Or if you're going to drink, then drive and kill someone. Well, that's, all those things are not true. And then it was never discussed from the church's standpoint that sin's actually really fun.
Yeah.
Like it really is. Like there's
for a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. But, but it is fun. If it wasn't fun, no one would sin.
Correct.
Pizza Ranch tastes good because it's good, but it's also bad for you. So like there's reasons for these things, right?
If people wouldn't go back up to the buffet line if it sucks.
Never. Like no one's arguing to like put the salad down, right? Like no, you cannot eat another salad. Like there's things in life that we just don't ever discuss. And so the way I preach as from a pastor is, dude, sin's fun, but it'll take you longer than you want to go, and it'll keep you longer than you want to stay. Yes. And that line is where we don't know. That's the tough part.
Correct.
Some people can drink through high school and college and turn it off when they turn their life to Jesus. And other people are 50, 60-year-old alcoholics.
Yeah.
Who knows where you're going to fall on that. And
Correct.
that's not worth a risk that, I'm willing to take.
Correct.
So, okay.
Awesome. Very good.
Sweet. Look at that. 37 minutes. That's gotta be a record.
Yeah, let's go. I try to keep to the script.
Perfect. Hey, on this podcast, we teach you how to renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation.
Yes, sir.
And never forget it. There's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't.
When you don't.
Peace out.
Amen. Let's go.
Y'all. I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me, for all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, boy, what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror, tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.